So now we're going to go over the referee training. And essentially the referee training is a little more complicated than the first section of this with the host and the scorekeeper. The referee training really consists of one, a head referee, and two, you need a scorekeeping referee at each board. So if you've got the quad, there's 4 boards, you need 4 scorekeeping referees. And optimally, I would like you to have an assistant referee at the board. And the assistant referee, again, 4 boards, 4 referees. So if you're running a quad, just 4 tables, you need a head referee plus 4 scorekeeping referees and score assistant referees for a total of 9 referees. If you're running 8 tables, add another 8. So therefore you need 17 referees. If you're running 12 tables, you need 25. Now I realize getting 25 volunteers for referees might be a little difficult, but at the minimum you need 1 head, you need 4 scorekeepers for each table, and the assistant, we can drop that down to 2, but if you drop it down to 2 per quad, you don't get things reset the way you should. So at a minimum, you need 1 head referee and 6 referees around the quad to make the tournament run for a total of 7. I recommend 9, but you could do 7, okay? That doesn't include any of the support staff that's the host has got going outside of the tournament area. This is just the people volunteering on the tournament, for the tournament at the boards, okay? So let's just discuss the head referee real quick. The head referee is essentially a police officer. He is controlling traffic, the traffic flow of the students coming into the tournament area from the pit area. Essentially, you can look at the students that are at the board, on deck, or in the hole. I recommend having 3 sets of teams ready to compete. So you have a group of teams of, we're going to just go with 4 boards, 4 tables. So you have 4 teams that are ready to compete at the quad. The referee is going to recognize that some support is going to handle the 4 people that are on deck, or 4 teams that are on deck, and hopefully an additional 4 behind them in the hole, so that you've got 12 teams ready to compete for a 4-board, 4-table setup. Okay? So just know the head referee, he's going to bring the first group in. The kids are going to approach the table. They're going to set up their materials. This year, the general rules have changed, and kids are not allowed, teams are not allowed to bring in a wagon, to bring in multiple bins. They are allowed to bring in 1 bin that will fit on a chair called the extension of safe zone and set it on the chair. If the team chooses, they may bring 1 TV stand, a normal TV overhead projector stand they may bring in. Not a huge, the library, you may have one of those stands that have the books on it that's level. That's okay, but some of the teams are bringing in so much support material that it's getting to be a safety issue with people walking around. So just know 1 container, and that container could be a TV stand with multiple shelves and multiple supplies on those shelves, but not a wagon and a bin and other stuff that when the kids set it out, there's stuff all over the floor. I'm just worried about kids competing and the referee steps on their attachment. Well, 1, is the referee going to fall and get hurt? Or 2, what's going to happen to that attachment that got broke? The referee can't repair it. So we need to control where these materials are, and my best way of doing that is a TV stand with multiple shelves for the kids to use. Okay? If you do have students that bring stuff in a wagon, some other stuff, that is a head referee and host situation that they got to control, and hopefully they will come to an agreement that is beneficial for both parties. Okay? But that's when you come to the board. So the referees ushered in the teams have set up. There's a chair that will be set adjacent to the safe zone area, which is the extension of safe zone. The kids can put their bin on top of that or bring their TV stand and move that chair to the side. It's optional, it's up to the kids. But once they come to the board, the first thing that the students should do is start putting stuff in the safe zone that they need to run the match. Typically, I recommend that one student sets up the safe zone. The second student will bring the team space probe and show the referee, the scorer and referee, that they got their team space probe, and explain to the team space probe needs to be multiple Legos, needs to have a movable arm, and it needs to have a satellite dish for communications. So it's very vague. Multiple Legos, very vague. Movable arm is anything that can move. And the communication disc, typically we think of a satellite disk as a round object, but let's be honest, some schools may not have a satellite dish or a round object, and they have a square Lego. As long as that student says to the referee, that Lego is my communication disc, it doesn't matter if it's round, square, rectangular, whatever. As long as the purpose of this mission is for the student to communicate to the adult and describe effectively what their team space probe is, okay? There is no right or wrong answer as far as its design and its appearance. It's more of the content of the student's description as to what it is, okay? So referees, that's kind of an open-ended answer, and benefit of the doubt when at all possible to giving points for that mission, okay? The next thing that I've got the head referee doing this, but I'm probably going to have the person staging the teams doing this, is for Mission 5, the asteroid belt warning markers. The teams will have to program their robot to do one of 8 codes. And I'm debating whether the head referee will do this or it will be done before the kids approach the board to give the kids the opportunity to orient their programs in the robot. But at some point, either the head referee or an assistant will notify the teams of the location code. And the location code will just be a simple piece of paper, no bigger than this, and it'll have a number from 1 to 8 on it, and no number, but it'll have a number from 1 to 8, and the scorekeeper will record on the paper score sheet or on the tablet a number 1 or 8 in the appropriate question box. That way when it goes to the programming, it automatically scores accordingly as to what the answers are that are answered later on. Okay, so at this point you've actually done 2 things as a referee, or actually 3 things. When the team approaches, you confirm who the team name is and you enter the team information data. You score the team space probe and you record the location code. So you've actually done 3 things with the team at this point. Team information, team space probe scoring, and location code at this point. And this is all before the match starts. So when you look at your score sheet or on your tablet, it's in a section that's all before the match starts. Okay? So after you've scored and recorded the location code, you're pretty much going to go and ask your team members if they're ready to compete. And a couple more seconds, 30 seconds, and that might be good. But if they start taking a minute or 2 minutes, we're going too long. So you want to progress the team as soon as they get to that table, get in the habit of getting that team set up and ready to go, because time is very valuable as far as the overall tournament. So, round 1 we're a little lax on them, but round 2 and 3 kind of push these teams to get stuff done. Okay, so team's ready to go. We're going to give a thumbs up to the head referee, and you're at a 4-table board or quad. We got 4 thumbs up. Head referee is going to make a motion to the timekeeper. Timekeeper is going to, in a gym, it's probably the clock on the wall that we use for basketball. 3-minute time. Everybody's got thumbs up. Head referee says good. Timekeeper is going to use a whistle or an air horn to denote the start of the 3-minute clock. And then the clock starts. So the team is out here competing on the board, trying to manipulate and activate the different objects on the board. Meanwhile, the 2 referees are doing a job of monitoring the performance of the team. So during the match, the scorekeeper has to do essentially one thing, and that is monitor what the kids are doing. If the robot is in the safe zone, the kids may touch it with their hands, their fingers or hands, and activate, manipulate, add, and subtract things without any penalty. But if for some reason the robot leaves the safe zone, visually from above looking down, your perception as a referee, is it outside the gray line? If it's a yes, then it's outside the gray line. If it's any part of the robot is in the safe zone or over it, so 90% of the robot may be outside, but 10% may be still in the safe zone area, it is still considered in at this point. It's when 100% of the robot is outside of the gray line that it's considered out. Now outside of the safe zone also, you have to consider, imagine a dog. A dog has a nose and it has a tail. So my arm here is my tail, this arm here is my nose. My feet are touching the floor. The robot, I'm the robot. So the robot is touching the floor, the tail is outside, the nose is outside. But if for some reason the tail, as the robot leaves, is over that gray line, it is still considered in. So if any part of the robot is touching the line or above the line, it is considered in the safe zone. Once the entire robot is outside of that gray line, it is considered outside. And this is where the referee needs to monitor the action of the student. Because once the robot is outside and a student touches the robot, the referee assesses a touch penalty by notifying the students, respectfully, sir, or student, you got to replace your robot to the safe zone because there's a touch penalty because you touched your robot. The robot has to go back to the safe zone and the team has to restart from the safe zone. Now there's a catch. If the robot, when the referee notified the kids of a touch penalty, was controlling a mission object, whether it's a deliverable or a retrievable, the referee is supposed to take possession of that deliverable or retrievable object from the students. The kids still restart the robot back in the safe zone, but they lose the deliverable, retrievable object. The referee takes that object and places it in approximately the location the robot was touched. Just put that object on the mat. The kids will not be happy, but just know that the kids have to surrender those objects that the robot has control. Okay? So just know that many times kids cannot go back out and recover it, and they give you that deer in the headlight look. But just know that as a practice, touch penalties, kids lose possession of retrievable and deliverable objects in the location that it was of the touch. Okay? So that's the touch penalty. The kids get 5 touch penalties. Right? So if there's no touch penalties, you would mark the 0. As the students go through the match and they touch it 1, 2, 3, 4 times, you do just a mark on your tablet or a mark on your paper of the number of touches. And if you're using paper and you cross out number 1, number 2, number 3, make sure you circle the final number so the scorekeeper knows what number is correct as far as total number of touch penalties. The Google form, as you hit 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it automatically repopulates to that higher number. Okay, but there's confusion with the Excel paper scoring. When you do hash marks, the scorekeeper doesn't always know for sure what number to put in the computer, so make sure you circle the final number. Okay, and then that's it for the touch penalties. The last thing that you have to do during the match is monitor the clock. And that, more importantly, the students monitor the clock. So if the match is going on, we start at 3 minutes, it's going down 2:30, 2 minutes, 1:30, 1 minute, 1:45, 30 seconds, 15 seconds, then 0. Now at some point in that progression downward, a team member at the table, so you're allowed 2 students at the table, a team member at the table may yell out time. And if they yell out time, the referee will score on the score sheet the time that is on the clock. So they yell time and there's 12 seconds on the clock, you just put 0, 1, 2. On the paper score sheet, on the Google form, you're going to put 0, 1, 2 on the Google form. All right? That way, as scores are tabulated and tiebreakers are, the time becomes a tie-breaking device for the teams that have the same score. So essentially, if two teams have 100 points and one team gets 100 after 3 minutes, and another team gets 100 with 2 minutes and 45 seconds, so that they got a 15-second less amount of time to take to do that, that team did that quicker, so therefore they are elevated in rank because they did the run faster. Okay, but that's it for time. So that's during the match. The touch penalties and the time are the things that are going on during the match that the scorekeeping referee and the assistant referee have to monitor and record appropriately. I did not mention this, but because of the spacing around the board, referees should leave about 3 feet of space from the edge of the board to where they stand to allow the students to move all the way around the board. Referees stand 3 feet behind. The scorekeeping referee should stand at the south wall, and the assistant referee should stand at the northwest wall over here. That way you've got 2 referees monitoring the performance of the team and the robot from 2 different angles. You both work together. You know, the assistant referee can notify the scorekeeping referee of touch penalties. And the touch penalties are taken from the west wall, which is the first one, second one, third one, fourth one, and fifth one. And as objects are moved, for whatever reason the touch penalty object was moved to this location, this becomes your first one. These 2 are even, so you could take either one for your second and third one, fourth and fifth. If by some chance touch penalties are taken all the way back to the safe zone because they could get a higher score, and let's just assume that touch penalties are retrieved back to the safe zone and they're put in that corner there. If it's on the south wall in that corner and you assess a touch penalty, you've got 1 in the field out here and you've got 4 in the safe zone. By definition, east wall to west wall, where did the students place their touch penalties? If the student places their touch penalty in that corner there, which is, as you're looking at it, to the right side of the safe zone, they should take the touch penalty based on east to west from the safe zone. Even though this one hasn't scored at an elevated value, that is the easternmost. So coaches should have taught their students to place the touch penalties either against the west wall or on the extension of safe zone. So I'm playing mind games with the teams, but just know that by definition, the referee takes the easternmost. And coaches usually learn this the hard way the first time, but the placement of the touch penalties in the safe zone can adversely impact the team when you assess touch penalties. And yes, you probably will have a few teams saying the touch penalties are in the safe zone, you can't take them. Well, that was for last year's Uhala Challenge. Yes, you could take them from the safe zone, but this year for the Mission Horizon Challenge, I think I said that wrong. Last year you could not take touch penalties out of the safe zone. This year you can take touch penalties out of the safe zone. Again, I'm working with the kids, making them think. Okay? So you may have a couple teams that come at you and say, well, you're not supposed to take them out of the safe zone. Yes, for Mission Horizon, you are allowed to take them out of the safe zone, out of the extension of safe zone area. You can take them. Okay? And when you take the touch penalties, also keep in mind that sometimes to actually physically take touch penalty object, there may be a team member in the way, or you may adversely impact the team as they're doing stuff in the safe zone. just do a hash mark on your paper, notify them of the touch penalty, and recover the touch penalty object at a convenient time so you don't disturb the students any worse than you already have by notifying them of the touch penalty. Okay, so that's probably, the touch penalty is probably one of those things that is somewhat complicated, I guess. Okay, so that's it during the match. The next thing we're going to go over is clock has gone to 0 or the students have called time. Okay, so now you score the board, the remaining mission object on the board, as if it was a picture in time. So, as you look around the board, the score sheet, the paper score sheet and the Google form, both start in the safe zone and ask you a question, what objects are in the safe zone? And for this one here, it's asking you how many space minerals are in the safe zone, which are the red, green, blue, and yellow objects. And you just record the number 1, 2, 3, or 4. It could be 0 as well. You just look to see how many of them's in the safe zone, either partially or completely, and you score on the form or on the paper. Okay? The next question it's going to ask you is an astronaut on the moon? And the astronaut may be placed on the moon with the drill. If the astronaut is delivered out here in space and he's floating around in space, there's no score. It must touch the mat. So therefore it cannot be in a capsule or any other kind of device that the teams construct. It must be touching the mat. It could have a corral. You could build a corral, you know, a gated thing that has no floor. So it could have a corral kind of device, but it can't have a box with a floor to it. Okay, so the astronaut must touch the mat, and it can be partially or completely on the moon to score. Okay, the next object is the drill, and this is a yes/no question. And essentially the team has to pull that out so it spins. That's all they got to do is pull it out, yes, no. And while we're on it, the referee, when you reset this, you're going to rotate it only, you're going to take all the tension off of it, but you're going to rotate it one time, no more, because if you rotate it more than one time, it creates too much tension and the robot won't pull it. So make sure that when you reset that object, you just do it one time and stick it in. Okay? So if they pull this out, it's a positive. If they destroy it, it's a no. So if the team comes out here and pulls it, and in the process of pulling it, they destroy it, that's a no score. Okay? Teams need to think about that as they program and design their robot to activate that object. Okay? The next object on the score sheet will be the flying asteroid, and this is the flying asteroid here. Essentially the team just has to elevate it so that the flying asteroid is on the outside of the board to get a score. And that's a yes or no. Okay. The next one is the Stargate mission object. Let's grab this. This is the Stargate mission object. Is it delivered to the adjacent table's space station staging area? This one you're actually going to do during the match. I got to make a note, I got to move that up to the other section. But this one, the team will deliver either above it or through the Stargate to the adjacent team's Stargate or space station staging area. So it's a dashed orange line, and as long as it's partially or completely in that area, you're going to award a score. And that one there, because of its impacting another team, after the team attempts this mission and delivers the Stargate object, you will recover this off of the opponent's table so there's no adverse impact to the opponents. Okay? So that your team that you're scoring sends it to the opponent's table. Your assistant is in the position, because he's standing here, he will monitor it and remove it as soon as he can without impacting the opponent's performance. And he will notify you of the score. Was it partially in or completely in? And you record that accordingly. Okay? You take that away from the opponent's table, and your assistant referee will keep it in their pocket or in a convenient place to reset it for the next match. Okay? So that is the one thing too that I need to change on the score sheet and add that to the touch penalty section and the time section for during the match. Okay? The next thing, remember before the match started, the head referee or others gave out the code. The referee does not need to know what that code means, other than to say it's code 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The team needs to know what that code means because the code reflects back to the Stargate or the asteroid belt warning markers. The referee has placed all these markers over the 0 location on the mat, and the teams, based on the code, have to program their robot to activate these gates in a certain order. So when you're looking at them, there's a 0, 1, 2, 3 on the mat, and the referee will score starting with this Stargate that's in the center and move back the warning markers. So this is the first one, second one, or at least on your score sheet, this one's A, B, C, and D, and you would record accordingly. So based on what I'm showing you at this point, we got a 3, a 1, a 2, and this one's on the line over here. So as a referee, from above, you look down and you give your best estimate of what that is. So benefit of the doubt tells me if it's equally on the line, you give the students the higher scoring. So because it's on the line between 2 and 3, benefit of the doubt, I recommend you go ahead and score them a 3. Okay? And if by some chance we're looking at it later on, and it's on the 0 and the 3 position line, again, I would recommend giving them the higher value, which would be the 3. Okay? So, all right. I think that's that for that. Okay. All right. The next thing is the quad platform, which we call the black hole. And the team has multiple ways of scoring over here. They can take their team space probe and deliver it underneath. Uh-oh, the construction for this one's an issue. It won't go underneath if it's standing up, but it could go underneath on its side. So the referee, there's a black line on the mat under here that should match up with the black edge of the quad platform. The team space probe needs to be 100% under the quad platform to score. So if it's out here, there's no score. If it's partially under, there's no score. The referee, the team, has to program the robot so that when the referee looks at it from above looking down, that team space probe is 100% in the black hole. And that's a 40-point score just so you know that. The team also could take this probe and put it on top. That's a 50-point score. Just to know that they could score this team space probe in 2 places. It has to be 100% under, 100% on top. And they get a lower score for under, a higher score for on top. Okay? The next one, and I probably should have been calling out the question numbers, but the next one is the robot. You can take the robot probe, and teams can take the robot, program it to climb on top. Okay? If this is question number 8, it's a yes/no question. So for the robot probe or the robot, it needs to be on top, and the drive axle. When you look at the bottom, you got a motor. The motor is attached to an axle. The axle is attached to a wheel. The drive wheel, these 2 black wheels are the drive wheels. This one here is not a drive wheel. But these 2 wheels must be on top to score. And so that we're looking at this, it can be partially or completely on top, so things can hang over the platform for the robot, but the drive wheels need to be 100% on top. They can be on their side, upside down, it doesn't matter, but as long as the drive wheels are on top, they get the score. If by some chance you've got 1 drive wheel on top and 1 drive wheel hanging over, there's no score. If you've got 2 drive wheels on top and the arm is hanging over, as long as the arm hanging over is not touching the mat, you get a score. The 2 drive wheels are on top, the arm is hanging over and not touching the mat, we're good. But if the 2 drive wheels are on top and the arm is touching the mat, no score. Okay? And there are other documents that the referees can review to help with just defining on the quad platform. Okay? So that's number 8 there. The next one is the team has to deliver, which is number 9, the telescope. And coaches have asked me about the telescope. The telescope is every Lego on this mission object. It's not just the red and green portion. The mission object consists of every Lego. The yellow, black, red, and green portions are all considered the telescope. So as the team delivers it out here to the telescope target area, it has to be touching the mat, any Lego of the mission object touching the mat, and it has to be in the ring. So this one here is partially in the ring, this one's completely in the ring. Okay? This one here is touching the mat. I wanted to clarify this one. I've got another video and document that clarifies this, but I believe the other document has it where the touching part of the telescope has to be within the ring, not just over like that. So if, for example, the elevated green Lego is above the purple line, but the black touching portion of the telescope is not in that ring or in the circle, it does not score. The touching part has to be with the ring. And the touching part can be any Lego again. Okay, so any way that any part of those Legos touch. Right side up, on its side, it doesn't matter as long as it touches. So the outer ring is a lesser score, the inner ring is a higher score. And again, you as the referee are just going to score which ring you see it at. Okay? So sometimes a team may put an object in a container, in a box, and when there's the word touch, the box is not the scoring object. The mission object is the scoring object. So if teams deliver an object in a container of some kind and the word touch is there, the actual mission object has to touch the appropriate area to score, not the container that they delivered it in. Okay? If you have any questions, give me a call and I'll clarify on that one or anything. Okay? The next one, we're going to move to the space station. And Space Station Extreme is very extreme in activity. I just want to clarify while we're here, you've got the science lab that on the mat is colored black, and then it has a half black and a half orange on the right side. So some of the teams got a science lab that consists of 1 black panel and 1 orange panel. Some teams got the science lab that consists of 2 black panels. Just due to inventory control, just know that you may go and your table may have, table 1 may have an orange-black science lab, table 2 may have a black-black science lab. Okay? But you match them up on the science lab according to the colors. The solid black gets the black, the half black, half orange gets the black or the orange. And then if you do have the 2 black, notice the coloration of the gray, black, and orange. Gray, black, and orange on here will tell you which direction to set that correctly. Okay? So that's the preparation for that. Now we'll go on to the mission object itself, which is mission number, the science lab, positioning the science lab. When you look at the Space Station Extreme, each gray module has a different name to it. You've got living quarters, multi-purpose module, exercise module, and so on. Okay? For this mission, mission number 11, the science lab must either touch or be over. So being over means it does not have to touch, but it must be touching or over both the multi-purpose module and the exercise module to score. If it's over one or the other, it's a no score. It has to be over both of them to get the score. And that's a yes/no question. All right. Number 12 is the maintenance module. Maintenance module out here is this orange and black one. It has to be over any, did it say over or touch? Partially or completely over any gray module. So there's a lot of surface area out there they can maneuver this maintenance module to be over any of the gray modules to score. And that's number 12, yes, no. Now, number 13 is the supplies module. And this one has 3 scores. This one can be touching or over. Teams must deliver this one to any airlock. And when you look at the space station, there's 3 airlocks. Airlock 1, 2, and 3. So as the teams score it, if it's over airlock 1, you circle airlock 1. If it's over airlock 2, you circle airlock 2. Or if it's over airlock 3, you score airlock 3. You may have the possibility where it's over airlock 2 and 3. So if it's over 2 and 3, you record the higher number of 3 for the score. Okay? Mission number 14. I'm going to turn this around for the camera. But when you start, the solar array must be facing the center of the mat. The orange solar panel, Lego, needs to be elevated. All right? So the team has to take, partially or completely, maneuver this orange panel downward. All right? It's either a yes/no question, partially or completely, award the score. All right? Mission number 15. The solar array needs to be turned around 180 degrees. It could be 140 degrees, 130 degrees, it don't matter, as long as at the start of the match it's here, at the end of the match it falls to the other side. So the team could just rotate the solar array around 180 degrees. They could activate the orange panel and rotate it 180 degrees. It's up to the ability of the teams. As the referee, you score each action separately. So the solar panel, the orange solar panel, is one score, yes or no. The solar array going around is another one, yes or no. And because that solar array will rotate rather easily, teams may not use support devices, Legos, to hold it in place. So a team essentially has to program the robot to rotate it and hope it stays. They can't use any other support structure to prevent it from moving all the way around. Okay, so that the robot has to activate it and allow it to rotate and score it that way. Supporting devices, it's a negative. They get no score if they use a supporting device to hold it in place. Okay. That was number 15. Number 16 is kind of hard. There's this little processed minerals, and teams must position this so that it's between the feet of the truss of the solar array. It can be partially or completely between the feet. It must be touching the mat. It can be elevated on the feet and score if part of it is touching the mat. So there is the potential that this thing is moved between the feet and they get a positive score. It's also possible that it gets moved and picked up and put on top of the feet of the truss. If it's on top of the feet of the truss, it is not touching the mat. If it's not touching the mat, they get no score. Okay? All right. And then that was number 16. And then the last one is the mineral probe, which is the center of the mat. The mineral probe starts in the safe zone and must be delivered out here such that any portion of it is over the blue line, the blue circle, the blue ring. Right? It can be on its side, right side up, upside down, it doesn't matter. As long as any part of it is over that blue ring, they get a score. Okay? And that pretty much is the last thing that you've got to score.
Skipped 1 and 10.
I skipped 1 and 10? Did I skip 1? No, I did 1 and
Did you
10.
do the space minerals?
Did I skip 1?
You did space minerals, you didn't do 10. no.
I didn't do 10. That is the astronaut, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so think of mission, or scoring up here, number 2, with your astronaut. Partially or completely in and touching the mat to score. You can have a second astronaut to go to the space station. This one, as long as it is above any gray surface area, it scores. It can be in a capsule, meaning it doesn't have to touch. So I'm playing again with the kids. The astronaut by the drill has to touch. The astronaut by the space station can touch if the kids want to do it that way, or they can put it in a capsule and deliver the capsule out so that the astronaut doesn't actually touch. The referee will look from above, looking down, and if in the determination of the referee the astronaut is in that capsule over any gray area, the kids get the score. Okay? So, I hope that's clear as mud. But anyway, so to support this document, or to support this video, each mission has a starting and scoring PDF that goes along with each mission object we just went over. It shows you how to place that mission object at the beginning of the match. It shows you how to award points for that object at the end of the match. So use those PDFs. There's about 15 different documents to help you, the referee, learn how to place these objects at the start of the match and to learn how to score them at the end of the match. The one thing I want to point out, as you're setting up the board, and we just had match 1 just completed, and we're going to reset the board for match 2. If the referee forgets to reset an object, and that object was in a scoring position from the previous match, and the clock starts on match number 2, even though those kids didn't do that mission object, you have to award positively the score from the previous match. There is a balance between the referee resetting the board correctly and the team when they approach the board and set up their robot in the safe zone. The team members should be looking at the board as well and saying, sir, ma'am, the mission object needs to be moved, or mission object needs to be reset. There's a balance between the team and the referees that the board is set up correctly. So when the referee makes a mistake to benefit a team, they have to award the points. Conversely, if the team doesn't catch that there's a problem out there, the team loses the opportunity to score if by some chance they wanted to deliver the astronaut, let's say, to the moon, but they didn't recognize until after the clock starts that the previous team had moved it in a non-scoring position. So there's reason for the referee to do it correctly, and there's reason for the team members to do it correctly. Just know that if the referee makes the mistake, we benefit the team makes a mistake, unfortunately, they lose an opportunity. So both the referee and the team have to work together to make sure the board is reset correctly at the beginning of the match. Okay? And that's pretty much going over the score sheet, other than to say that the referee will take the score sheet at the end of the match, and team captain only will stay at the table. The robot stays at the table. The TV stand will stay at the table. And the head referee or the scoring referee will go over the score with that team. Team member will sign the bottom, and either the referee or the team captain will take the paper score sheet and give it to the scorekeeper. If you're using the tablet, the referee will, as the referee scores the entire board from the beginning of the, from the picture in time, you start scoring around the board. The referee will go with the team captain as they score, going around to save time and mark things off on the tablet. Once everything's done with the scoring on the tablet, the referee will ask for initials from the team captain, If he agrees with what the team captain agrees with what the referee has, then the referee hits submit. And then once it's submitted, it goes into the scoring process and everybody finds out what they scored. The one thing I want the referees who are using the tablet to be careful of, when you're using the tablet, they're touch screen. So as you scroll, sometimes you inadvertently will mark a score on an object, higher or lower, and you don't realize it. So the team captain, signs, yes, it's approved, but then the coach realizes that the score was wrong. We'll come back with the scorekeeper's help and interview you and say, hey, Mission, whatever, with such and such a team, do you remember the score? And we'll correct the score at that point. So just be careful when you use the touch screen that sometimes as you're touching, you can unintentionally mark something you didn't want to score, okay? But that's it pretty much for the touch screen. Other than that, like I said, review the documents for the mission objects. If you have time, review as many of the general rules and other Mission Horizon Challenge documents and watch the videos. So, do the best you can to score the kids the best you can fairly and have a good tournament, all right? So at this point, we've gone over everything and I have a few guests with me tonight. We're going to do a little Q&A here, and hopefully I gave a good presentation and the Q&A is minimal. So, all right, anybody got any questions? Oh my gosh, we got paper written, we got pages over here.
At the beginning, if students bring their that over and they don't start explaining to you what it is, are we prompting them?
Well, the referee on the score sheet will have to, and we're talking about the Team Space Probe, all right? So the referee head referee has just brought everybody to the table. Team members, 2 team members only are active at the table. One of the team members should approach the head referee and show the head referee and demonstrate multiple Legos, an arm, and a satellite dish. It's kind of a gray area if you ask for the Team Space Probe, because you're, in essence, if you ask for something, you're giving a team strategy. So I'm going to recommend that if the team comes up to the table, sets up, the referee stands there in a convenient location waiting to be approached by a team member. If the team member does not show you their Team Space Probe, you award a no for no score, because the students are supposed to approach the adult. It's part of kids getting comfortable with speaking to authority figures. So if the student doesn't approach you with their Team Space Probe, you ask them when they're ready, and if it's a thumbs up, the clock starts, and they say, oh, I forgot. Sorry, you don't award the points for that. You give them a no if the team doesn't approach you with it.
But what if they've used weird blocks and you can't tell what they have on there, and you said they had to describe it? That's what I meant. Can you prompt them to describe what they have?
Yes, so once the team members comes up to you, pretty much their job is to describe the Team Space Probe to you. And you've got 3 questions: multiple Legos, movable arm, and a satellite dish. So in order to answer those questions, once the student approaches you, hopefully their description will answer those 3 questions. But in the process, sir, ma'am, Mr. Referee, here's my Team Space Probe. You can see it's multiple Legos. So therefore that's a yes without even prompting. Now you can see different objects. This may be an arm and maybe it's not, but you want the students to say, here's my arm, here's my satellite dish. So basically if you're the referee and the student approaches you, say something like, please describe your satellite dish for me. And they're going to go into details that go beyond what you're supposed to know, but just know if they answer or describe an arm, satellite dish, and you can see it's multiple Legos, it's yes for all 3. If they, for example, some schools may not have a round object, they could point to a square, rectangular Lego and say, that's my satellite dish. As long as the team describes it to you, give them the benefit of the doubt and a positive score. Okay? That answer that?
You just say escape raft on the sheet here, does
this to change it. That's the first draft. Thought I got rid of all them. Apparently not. Okay, any other questions?
How do you envision giving out the code to the refs?
So, I know at state what's going to happen. I'm going to give the kids time to program the robot, because teams may actually, and in case you didn't hear the question, how am I giving out the location code? We've got to speed up the tournament process. I envision either the head referee while the team is on deck, or some other volunteer while the team is on deck, will hold up a card and get the team's attention. And on the card will be a number 1 through 8. While the teams are on deck, the teams will be able to go into their program and orient their robot if they choose to set up for mission number 1, mission number 4, mission number 8. That way when we're at the board, the teams are already ready for the location code, and the tournament process can move quicker. Okay, so I envision providing the code. Each match has a different code, but I envision providing that code to the team while they are on deck. Okay, so the team that's in the hole will not get their code until the teams rotate up a match, and once the teams are on deck, then that referee or volunteer will give them a different code for a match, the subsequent matches. Okay, each match should have a different code. People have asked, should round 1 be all location code 1? Should round 2 be all location 2? No, each match has a separate code, and the codes were designed to kind of give credit for difficulty so that they're kind of equally balanced, whether it's code 1 or code 8. But just know that the codes, teams could have one program that uses a light sensor, or teams could use 8 different programs. Each team can approach it differently to address those warning markers up. Yes?
Okay, I'm sorry, so I don't understand the codes as much because I'm not up on the missions as much as you are. So the kid's out in the hallway and I tell him what his code is. Does his ref need to know when he gets in what the code is? So maybe what I
Well,
should do is hand him a card.
Probably what's going to happen is we'll work with the volunteer, and if it's on deck, let's just say team number 1 who's on deck, the volunteer will hand team number 1 the code, because you're out in the hallway, or some of them are right on top of the tournament area. But if you're out in the hallway, we'll have them, team number 1 will have the code, and then they'll hand that to the head referee, and the head referee will announce it a second time on the tournament floor.
So do all
Tables will have the same
tables
code.
have to be the same code?
All tables will have the same code.
Or can I hand everybody a different card and it doesn't
All
matter?
tables have the same code.
Why?
They all got the same code. So if you've got 4 tables, all 4 teams will be doing code number 1. If you've got 8 tables, they'll all be doing code number 1. And the referee, whether it's a paper score sheet or the tablet, when they answer that question, it'll be a 1 through 8 option. And everybody during that match is doing the same code. Okay? So then the second match comes up, and let's just say it's code number 5. Referees will record number 5 on the paper or on a tablet, and all teams competing during that match will do number 5. Okay? And we'll just have to, I can envision the smaller tournaments, the head referee holding up the code, but I can envision the bigger tournaments having off-site from the head referee giving this code out. So I can see where there's a need to have
I think it'd be
teams
fun to
bring it
have
forward.
cards and shuffle and they draw one. And when they walk in, that's what they're doing.
Jerry, I quit.
To be honest, I thought about your scenario there, that you would have 8 codes, you would have, like you
That's gonna
would,
mess up, I guess, the ref.
well, it's gonna be
Okay.
more difficult. Every ref, you can make an announcement 1 through 8 real easy, and every ref records 1 through 8, and every team has the ability to do.
On the scoring as well,
Mhm.
it needs to be consistent
Yes.
with your scoring.
Yep, so the formulas in the
But
sheets.
just for that match.
Just for that round, that
Yeah.
particular.
Not for that round, just
So
for
the
the
formulas
match.
within
That's
the Google
safe.
sheet or the Excel sheet will actually address the answer the referee gave for the location code, and then marry that up with the questions on number 6. Actually, on the Google form, it's 6, 7, 8, and 9 for the questions, but just know that that location code the referee enters on paper or on the form, the formulas will marry up with that initial location code entry to question 6 on paper and 6, 7, 8, 9 on the
Okay,
form.
Terry, you'll let me know how we're gonna work that out.
Can you tell us quick what the codes mean, just if they're on the borderline, which numbers will?
So when it's as you're looking at them, when they're placed on the mat, it's a northeastern, or let's just say, if you're looking on a clock, when you start, it's pointing at 1 p.m., let's say, okay? And then on the mat itself, there's 4 lines to provide the 4 different sectors going around. So as you go clockwise around the marker, you start at 0, 1, 2, 3. So as the team attempts this mission, this is marker A, B, C, and D. And if the end of time, if they're all in position 0 on your score sheet, you just put 0, 0, 0, 0. If at the end of time they were only able to move 1, they get the position here 1, which is in sector 1. It'd be 1, 0, 0, 0 on your sheet. And then as they activate different arms, you record the quadrant for that different marker on your sheet.
But how do we translate location code 1 through 8?
1 through 8, if you're the referee, you have no knowledge, you have no need to know.
But to the advantage of a team or disadvantage, if it's on a line and it could be a 2 or 3.
I recommend as a referee that if it's on the line, looking above, looking down, you have a low number, a high number, you always benefit of the doubt, give them the high number if it's on the line. So therefore, that kind of throws that out for everybody. You know, we always benefit of the doubt, it's a higher number. And part of the knowledge of you as a referee not knowing the code, in other words, the code is a 4-digit code, 1, 2, 3, 1.
I don't think it benefits anybody, I think it's just.
So it's just, as a referee, you've had this experience where your team has come to your board and you've walked away and exchanged with a different referee. So if you have knowledge of the team, you know, maybe it's your nephew, maybe it's a friend, maybe it's your own classmate, so to speak, walk away and exchange places with a different referee to avoid any kind of perceived conflict, okay? So, I mean, part of the reason why you, the referee, only knows the location code by number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, the students have to translate that code into a 4-digit 3, 2, 1, 2. So for the kids, I'm telling the referee to start the markers off at 0, but the kids' codes are always 1, 2, and 3 in a 4-number configuration. You never, you know, each number represents a different 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1 combination. There's never going to be anything 1, 1, 1, 1 or 2, 2, 2, 2. It's always a combination. So, and as a referee, again, you scored the location code, question 6, 3 minutes later, end of time, picture in time. You're just recording the numbers as you see these arms positioned, and then the kids get separate scores for each one. So there's really no benefit to say, hey, the 3 has a higher value than the 1. There's no benefit to that because each code has a maximum of any number twice. There's like a 1, 2, and 3. There'll be 2 1s and then a 2 and a 3, or 2 2s and a 1 and a 3. There's never going to be 3 of anyone or 4 of anyone. Okay, does that help?
Enough.
Okay.
Stargate question.
Mhm.
You said it had to go through or over. Does it matter if it goes to the side? And part 2 of that question is if that piece goes over in that corner and somehow messes up their robot running and doing whatever, or their robot is there and that piece lands on a robot, is that just the risk of that mission?
So you're at this board,
Mm-hmm.
I'm at this board.
Mm-hmm.
At no time can you impact my performance. Okay, so with that in mind,
Uh-huh.
if you bring the Stargate mission object and you put it over here and my robot happens to be operating at that same time, it becomes a referee judgment call if there was an impact on that. And the head referee may say, Team B, this team here, because they're doing the acting, wouldn't get the benefit. But if Team A impacts Team B, adversely Team B is impacted, the head referee has the option to say, you guys can do another match.
Okay.
Okay?
Because I remember the years ago when we were side by side and we had to throw trash over, it was just you had to deal with how it was
Yeah.
thrown
So,
over, so.
so to be consistent with you can't impact the other team.
Okay.
That's why that's why Team A's assistant referee needs to grab this as soon as he can without impacting Team B's team members. But when Team B's team members, the robots here, let's just say Team A throws it over here, and in the process, it takes Team B's supplies module and moves it off of a scoring position. Team B's scoring referees should be watching that, and if they recognize that Team A adversely impact the score of Team B will, the referee will award a positive point. Okay? Team A would not get any kind of redo or anything, but Team B would be elevated to a positive, made whole kind of thing. Okay? And if by some chance the object's thrown over here in the middle of the table and the referee can't get to it and their robot runs over it, you know, the referee can say a touch penalty without a penalty. In other words, touch your robot, start over, no problem. Or the head referee can say, hey, we had this problem, we're just going to let the team do a whole new match. Okay?
Stargate mission object in, can it be across the line or does that have to be completely?
Partially or completely?
Okay, and touching.
Touching. Yep. So,
And is it a judgment call whether it's over versus beside?
over beside what?
Well, you said it could go through the Stargate
It
or
don't.
over the
Yeah.
Stargate.
Okay, so think of a picture in time.
Right,
The robot, the referee's monitoring the performance of the robot.
right.
It doesn't matter the action. It doesn't matter if they catapult it, throw it, drop it. You just, as a referee, you're just watching the robot head in action.
Okay,
The final action is it in the Stargate or the space station staging area?
all right.
I need to recover that as soon as I can to not impact Team B.
It's
It
not
doesn't
about,
So that's
it's not about
basically
going
just a
through
marker.
that, that's just
No.
decoration.
This is just
That's a
decoration.
marker to
Okay.
show what.
So
Alright.
actually, when you look at this, if the boards are constructed correctly and the mat's placed correctly, this, it's off by half an inch to the one side or the other. But these should line up almost
Okay.
equally over there.
Alright.
So the center line here, this center line here actually hits the center
Okay,
there. So, you know, this is roughly 6 inches in width, that's roughly 7 inches in width. But just know that the center line that comes facing the opponent's board should be, when the board's assembled, the center should hit that center. Okay? And the reason why this is kind of 6 inches and that's bigger at 7 inches, because I know there's going to be some variation from table to table. So the team should program the robot to use the white line to orient the robot and then throw it into the center approximately. Throw it, drop it, deliver it, however you want to say it. But this may be more conflict than it is for anything, but it just makes the team design the robot to elevate whatever they're constructing. Okay.
Asteroids for a touch penalty, if they've put it in their extension of the safe zone, do we get it out of their extension?
So that's a referee judgment, okay? So anytime you're taking stuff from the kids, you got to think, am I going to impact them? In other words, do you have to push them out of the way? If you reach into if they put on the extension of a safe zone and the team's got attachments and other things in there, if I go in and grab that, could I possibly break their arm or whatever they got? If you feel as a referee that by grabbing it physically, you're going to adversely impact the team, I recommend just doing the hash mark or just on your tablet, clicking it up. You verbally already communicated to the team, touch penalty, so they're already adversely impacted. They're mentally kind of stressed many times. So you don't want to compound that stress by going and doing a second thing that they visually see at that moment, if it makes sense.
East-west rule, if they're beyond the board, then they're further west than the last one. Is that still hold true?
So if a coach really thinks that roll through, they will teach their team to always put the extension of safe zone out here. Because sometimes they'll put it here, and it's like, you just gave up points because of the location. So again, part of this is the actual robot, programming, instruction robot. Part of this is a mental game like chess. And that's one of those things that the kids have to think through. You know, that rule alone, they don't think about that rule too much, the east to west. But if the extension of safe zone is in the middle of the board, 1, 2, 3, well, that one becomes 4 over there maybe. So that's one of the things as coaches, you know, sometimes they don't like my thought pattern, but I'm trying to make kids think, you know, it's not a checkers game, it's a chess game. Okay?
Scoring for number 7,
Mhm.
the choices, not a quad, completely under, completely on top. But if you've got one hanging, as a referee, if you want to be able to answer, like if I've got one halfway hanging off, it's on, I can't really answer any of those 3. So could there be a 4th choice or a not at quad / not completely on?
Yeah. Yep, I got 2 things I fixed. Okay.
Well, related to that, what if they come with 2 probes and put one on and one under?
So, as the referee, when they come up and they show you your team space probe, that is the probe they gotta use. Now, if a team constructs 2 identical probes, I think they're smart myself.
I
Okay?
mean, even if they're not identical.
But no, because the team space probe that they describe to the referee is the team space probe that they gotta deliver on top of the bottom. So for argument's sake, if they do deliver or construct 2 identical, the construction, or the formatting of the program
Right.
will give them a score of either or. So, you know, if by some chance the referee has a choice between yes or no or top or bottom, they've only got to pick one.
So only
it
one,
can't score
only one is
twice.
scoring
Only one to
regardless.
score.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So,
Another question about the space probe. If the team forgets to show you before the round their space probe,
mhm.
and you don't award that.
So they got no on their score.
Right, can they still deliver
Yes,
and get those points?
yes.
Okay.
Because the team space probe is actually no different than any other
Yes.
object, any other corral or, you know, box that they create. It's no different really. I mean, it
Does
just-
it say that it has to be described before the time starts?
Yep. That's, I don't know if it specifically says at the start of the match, but it says, you know, mission 1, show your referee and describe it. I'm pretty sure it says, I'll have to check to make sure.
I'm thinking if it doesn't, and they described it, yes, they're chewing up their time, but they may, you
I'll
know,
have to go
even if
look
they
at
did
that
it
one.
during that 3 minutes, would
I'll
it
have to go look
matter?
at that one.
That usually only matters for round 1.
Yep. I mean, some of the stuff like this that we're talking about,
They-
many times when you give that team the negative, they learn real quick. Because one of the biggest questions I have from coaches is, do I have to do this, that, and the other thing? And they're always thinking about the positive, reinforcing positive, reinforcing positive. I said, but in real life, you know, Thomas Edison took 10,000 mistakes to create the light bulb.
Learn
But they weren't
both
really
ways.
mistakes, they were learning opportunities. So each time he learned, he got smarter. So as the kids do things out here, what many people would consider a negative, it should be viewed upon as a positive learning opportunity. And unfortunately for the referee, you may have to give them a negative in round 1 for them to learn, because I tell the coaches all the time, throw the negatives out the last week or 2 of practice and just work through negatives, negatives. Okay?
As long as the score doesn't go negative.
Score
Like
never
that
goes
one year.
negative. It hasn't gone negative since that year.
I know it.
My last question, just to clarify, the astronaut in the living quarters, if it gets transported in a tray or whatever they've made, the astronaut has to be over,
Yep.
not just the tray.
Yep, the tray can be over it. For example, I've had teams who have constructed things that are very large, and the astronaut will be at one corner, and the tray, tip of the tray is there, but the astronaut's in the blue. The astronaut is the scoring object, not the tray. So therefore,
make sure.
the referee looks from above, looking down, and if it breaks the plane of the gray surface area, then it's a positive score. So pretty much any time that the referee's in doubt of whether something scores, they should look from above, looking down, and if it breaks the plane, it's either partially or completely. The only thing that has a the only thing is the objects here at the quad, but everything else is a partially or completely score. Okay. Anything else? You've got something at the tip of your tongue, I can tell
Nah,
you.
this is off topic, so if yours is robotics, go on.
Does that count?
Yes,
Okay.
as long as it's between the feet. Partially, there's
Any
a,
part of it?
pretty much just figure a straight line going across the feet. And as long as it breaks that plane and touching the mat, they score.
This doesn't count and this doesn't count, right?
Correct.
This has to be over both.
No
Okay.
score has to be over both at the same time.
I gotta ask about broken objects, if there's
Okay?
extreme, but if this is broken, does that count anymore?
So essentially, when it comes to broken objects, the mission objects are constructed and designed by me. And you as the referees, as the match, the tournament progresses, should try to rebuild and reconstruct things the best you can. Because these things are gonna come off a lot. These markers are gonna come off and you're gonna have to replace them.
So I'm kinda going there, if that's knocked over, but the arm is within the number, do we score it or not?
So this is attached. If they knock it off, it is no longer attached. And there's no way to say it could have been in quadrant 1, 2, 3. It has to be connected and it has to be rotated around. Now, if it's barely off, scored, but if it comes completely off the Velcro, no,
It's a 0.
0. Okay? And the same way with the drill tends to lean forward when they pull it, and when they pull it many times, they'll pull it apart.
Jerry, he's breaking your stuff.
So if it spins, it's a positive score. But if in the process of pulling it apart, they pull it off, that's no score.
So this axle and tire removed is okay?
It's okay if the body is still in position
Yep.
and it spins, but if the action pulls it apart, then no.
Okay.
Like it pulls it off of its base, then no.
Okay. Same for solar panel?
Yes, pretty much any object that's dual locked down has to remain, has to remain, and then this has to elevate over, okay? Get over there. Okay,
I'm not sure how you're headed home, but there's a couple of wrecks. One is on Liberty Road at Fortune Drive, and the other one is on the outer loop of New Circle at Richmond Road. The good news is the horses that were on Man o' War at Palomar have been loaded up and are not on Man o' War anymore.
well, maybe I can ride the horse home, I don't know.
Kentucky problem.
I'm going 27,
Good
so I'll be
grief.
going that way north.
There's a picture on LexRex of the horses on Man o' War.
Although I'll probably be going straight to work. What time is it? It's 6:15?
Yeah.
Lord, people, Jerry's gonna kick me out.
All right, time to go, right?
So any last questions for this or any other thing about RCX?
Okay, this should come to us filled out at the top, right? The team,
No, well,
or do we get this?
you will probably take that and fill that out. You know that?
Are we using
We're gonna-
any pieces of paper?
We're gonna work on that,
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Well,
We
if
got
you're
some
using,
ideas.
If there's
If
a
you're
piece
using
of
the table.
paper, it'll come filled
Yeah.
out.
okay.
right now, we're doing the tablet. So right now, you're just gonna do the Google form and.
So when I get the tablet, and I guess we'll practice this day of, but it should already
It'll have
be.
lists of team names, it'll have,
Do I have to pick my team and which
You
board
have
I'm
a
on and all
list.
those things? or
We're
is
gonna
that-
have the kids come with some kind of card,
Okay.
so that they hand it to you, their team number, their team name, their coach's email address.
yeah.
And then you'll put those into the,
Actually, I think the
form.
biggest problem we're going to have,
but it'll all be a drop-down choice.
when
Okay,
you
if I
fill
was
out
to
the
type an
form.
email, I just.
Right.
Well, when you fill out the form, the first question is email address. And that one I cannot produce a list, because that email is the one that submits the form back to the
I
coach.
think that's right, yeah.
So that email will have to be typed in by the referee each time,
So I'm gonna have to type in fayette.kyschools.us on every
Yep.
time.
but everything else we're.
And you have to double check it.
Right, because I'll spell it wrong.
Yeah,
So that's where the referee comes, or the scorekeeper comes in. If a coach does not get the email within a short period of time, that's when they should approach the scorekeeper, and the scorekeeper can go back and say, well, you did this, this, and this. They can't email it again to them.
So it'll be there under whatever I typed in.
So you forget, lots of times I'll get kyschool.us. So just know that,
Why can't it be part of the form?
that one block, the way it's
Yeah.
designed.
plus
you
they
can't
all
do it.
don't use Fayette County.
So can we
Oh.
practice this a couple times
But if
on the
they've given
day
us
of,
their
just
email
typing out
address, why
random email
can't
and scoring
put it
something
in there
and
ahead of
sending
time?
it? That won't screw anything up, right? It'll just be a.
We just delete them.
Figure it out,
Okay.
Julie, figure it out.
So, but, yeah. So that is the one thing I can't do. So.
Julie's gonna figure it out. She's gonna figure out a way to do it.
No, Jerry told me not to.
I did not tell you
You
that.
told me I was not doing any of the forms this year. I didn't have to.
Okay. Any other questions? Oh, I would want to say one thing. You got that still on?
It's still gone.
I'm thinking it's
Oh,
the
just in case,
formulas and things.
this is the EV3 Mindstorm, EV3. Lego Spike Prime just came out January 1st, so you may have some teams who are using the Lego Spike Prime robot. That is a legal robot. The EV3 is a legal robot, and the NXT are legal robots. So as the teams approach, just know that you may see this brightly colored Spike Prime robot with funky looking wheels and funky colors, and that is a legal Lego product, so therefore it is a legal robot.
Boost is not legal.
It is Boost.
I don't even know if you could build one, but
Boost, it doesn't have a brick, don't have brain. And I believe Boost can only do remote control. Because I looked into it once, I didn't buy it and play with it, but
And nobody else is using NXT any, or not NXT, the
The original one.
RCX. the other one.
RCX one, the really.
I haven't seen one of them in
Yeah,
ages.
I haven't seen one.
But the Boost one, if the Boost one comes up, and I have not played with it, it's not listed, but if the Boost has a programmable brick that can produce autonomous programming, not remote control, the head referee, because of it's not being listed, would have to give the okay. But I'm saying on this video that if it's got a programmable brick that can perform autonomously, it's a yes. Because it's like a $150 robot compared to the $400.
Have there been any major problems with
$350
questions?
robot. So I can see where schools got multiple ones that they use. So, but I don't think it works. Okay. Anything else?
I think we had something at Georgetown.
Okay. All right, that's it.